And
so
then,
you mentioned that you kind of have started to hit the full life cycle, and that it's not just doing monitoring of assets after being built and after they've been running. So what caused you to make that change, and how has Sitemark like evolved in adding, you know, the engineering and construction phase of your platform?
so we started from the right in operations, and that was just because of the passion for thermography and the X1, and at that point the sensors, and we found it super exciting to do these first thermographies. Quickly rolled up a strong customer base, and then when we would ask the customer, what do you find exciting about Sitemark? They often were like, yeah, we're not very excited about thermographies because maintenance is not very sexy. The main focus of the management team was always about how can we build more sites, how can we do more developments to reach the target, because most of these asset owners, they measure their success by the amount of assets they have in their portfolios. Portfolio size is the main KPI. So you can imagine that their focus is mainly on growing the amount of assets, and not always on the maintenance of these assets and the performance of these assets. So even though they were happy with Sitemark on the thermography, we quickly realized that the real opportunity was in engineering and construction. And that's why we basically built out this entire 3D viewer, 𝐂𝐓𝐿 imports, integrations with AutoCAD. And we listened to most of our customers, which at that point, and it will shock you, but most of the asset owners are still building solar sites with Excel. So the difference, the crazy thing is that Excel is super modular. So there's a million ways you can use Excel to do project management. But I've had customers literally color the cells based on the tables and draw up the entire site into one big, beautiful Excel sheet. And then I was talking to the guys that had an internship, and this guy's internship was drawing up the Excels based on the CAD plans. So he would look and he would say, okay, there's 4 tables in a row. And then he would make this whole beautiful Excel art. I nearly wanted to print one and kind of put it at home. And it was just cell colors were representing different stages, and then cell values were like, if it has a 1 in it, it means that there's a quality issue. If there's a 2 in it. And then I was like, why did you do this? And it's like, yeah, there is no good tool to build solar. There is no digitized solution. How do you want us to collaborate? I mean, the guys are building the site back in Chile, and we're here in Italy, and we need to know when we can pay the EPC because he's completed the works. And that's where basically I realized, guys, if you fly over with a drone, we can do all of this in like 10 minutes, count the elements. And so we quickly realized that there was a huge potential. Create this tool that allows you to just track the progress, and then realize that there was much more than just progress tracking. It was not just about counting elements. It was about full-blown project tracking. So now we have like a nice project management tool to do all of that. And of course, engineering came later on, because once you start talking to the engineering guys, they say, hey, you can make these 3D models, but can't you also make one that we can use to basically do shadow simulations when we're developing plans? And we started having conversations with these engineers, and then ended up creating a new baby, which was the engineering products. And today we basically offer the full life cycle of solution. And we have our first customers. I mean, we've certainly got at least 200 plants which have done engineering, construction, commissioning, and operation with Sitemark. And you should see the smile on the operations people's face. They're like, wow. We can see where the trenches were put, so we don't have to be scared of when we shovel or to break cables. We can see what was built and why this trench was not in the correct location. We actually have documentation. The amount of times that you hear stories of operations people having no documentation on how wiring was done, no documentation whatsoever about anything of the site. A lot of data is lost in handing over. And that's why I think this entire life cycle digital twin strategy will completely change the way asset owners work today.
So as a follow-up, and this was asked in the by someone that is viewing, but I think it's a good time to ask it. Since when you and I met, you were using Zenmuse XTs, which are just a thermal camera. To add these other elements, you probably have to have EOIR solutions at the very least. So what platforms currently is Sitemark compatible with, barring that, yeah, you could probably take a bunch of pictures with anything and then maybe upload it into the platform. But what are the like main airframes and payloads that are being used?
So we are still using a lot of DJI, but our customers are also aware that, of course, there's a lot of people who are saying that DJI might be having access to your photos. So reliability, data privacy are also questions. So there's also customers looking at a lot of other platforms. And in the end, at Sitemark, we are very open to any type of data. So we've got a list of published, let's say, tested hardware combinations that we've tested and that works with Sitemark. But we also have a clear documentation on what are our acceptance criteria. And it's really down to, it needs to be a radiometric thermal camera. You need 640 by 512, and you need a geotag. So if you've got GPS, radiometric, and you've got the right resolution, it's just fine. Just fly at the right height to get the right GSD, and we can ingest the data. Just make sure you respect irradiance, things like that. In terms of visual cameras, well, we just need something that doesn't create rolling shutter issues. So a decent RGB camera, but these days most of the drone providers offer that. Again, geotag, and that's it. And of course, if you want to do engineering construction solutions, which is topography based and very heavy 3D, RTK, GPS, or GCPs is also a must. But just RTK is already enough for just tracking the construction progress, because we're mainly focused on 2D accuracy. So it really depends on the product, but we don't have any specific, very complex requirements towards hardware. So, I mean, I'm sure we have more than 150 different combinations that are already compatible with Sitemark. Going from wings to we even have customers uploading data coming from planes, so like real planes, or even helicopters. So I've got a German customer. Every year he flies over all these solar sites with a helicopter, takes photos, and it's not very cost effective, but I'm sure it's a lot of fun. And we can definitely use his data because he's got a GPS on the camera. And definitely works.